The mayor of Los Angeles won re-election earlier this year, and since then he's broadened his horizons a bit. Eric Garcetti has traveled to Wisconsin, overseas, and now to New Hampshire to talk to Democrats, touching off speculation that he might want to make the jump from the Getty House, the mayor's official residence in L.A., to the White House. And he's here today for a visit. Mr. Mayor, thanks for joining us.
Great to be with you, Adam. Thanks so much for your hospitality.
We'll talk a little bit about the future in a minute here, but let's jump right into the policy stuff right away. Sure. Minimum wage in L.A. You guys have bounced that up to $12 an hour this summer, and it's heading on its way to $15 an hour eventually. Any sense of price inflation yet, though, in your city? You
know, most studies have shown that when you give money back to folks who need money to spend, it goes right back into your economy. And we're seeing that throughout already, not just Los Angeles, but California. And while different markets have different levels, we know that the federal government has not kept up with what people used to earn in the minimum wage. In the 70s, in the 60s, in the 80s, what people earned, we've lost ground. And I think for all of us around America, we do value that a good day of work should have a good day of wages. I think a lot of people think, you and I probably started as teenagers earning the minimum wage. Only about 3% of minimum wage earners in my state, and for most of the country, are teenagers. So there are people trying to live off of that these days. And we know it's different than a tax break at the top. When folks at the bottom or the middle get something in their pocket, they're going to spend it because they need that money, and they're probably going to pay off some debt, spend on Main Street, and that is part of the virtuous circle that puts people back in employment.
Climate change is another issue where LA has taken the lead, where state leaders, perhaps not in your state, but other state leaders and federal leaders have either done nothing or turned in the opposite direction. But LA is unique because it's an economic powerhouse. You guys generate so much, you're able to do these things. What about for places like New Hampshire that are smaller, they have different economies, and those kind of policies might create hardship and dislocation for some folks?
Well, we see it really as a jobs program as much as it is about the environment. And whether it's Houston or whether it's the wildfires that go through the West because of drought, certainly there's extreme weather events that we're all experiencing because of global warming. But we see this really as something that generates great middle-class jobs. In fact, in California, we've generated about 500,000 jobs just in renewable energy. That's about 10 times more than all the coal jobs in America. And those should be in states like the Granite State. They should be in places like what was formerly known as coal country. And that should not just be something that's on the coast or in those areas that vote one way or the other. These are good middle-class jobs for folks without a college degree. We emphasize in our community colleges, where we've made tuition now free for all of our residents, that you can get a good job in future energy generation, reduce pollution, help the earth, but more importantly, help your family.
You serve in the Naval Reserve. The commander-in-chief right now is trying to make it so transgender people can't serve in the military. If an order were to come down eventually from the Department of Defense and they came to you and they say, we need you to identify or out people like this, would you obey that order?
Well, you know, I think that for all of us in the Navy, we've never asked whether somebody loves a man or a woman, people who have transitioned and changed their gender. That to me is not an issue. It's whether you want to be a patriot, serve our country. So that's something that I'm opposed to. I do respect the chain of command, but if I was actually asked to do a witch hunt and hunt people down, find where they are, no, that goes against my morality. And I think most of us as Americans, we want government to judge us on how well we perform, not by how we define ourselves, not by our religious background, not by our gender, not by our sexual orientation. And I think we want a strong military that attracts, just like we see in places like Israel, the very best, regardless of what their gender identity is.
And yet this is an order from the commander-in-chief. Does the military have a role to resist that? We saw initially when the president came out with the proposed ban that there was some resistance there. Do you think that would continue?
I do support, you know, what we heard out of the Pentagon, that there should be a process for this, that this shouldn't just come down arbitrarily. And that's not just for this. We want commanders-in-chief who listen to their generals, listen to their admirals, take time and have a process, not who kind of tweet out policy late at night.
Speaking of this Washington interaction with state and local affairs, what are you going to do if the Justice Department decides to pull funding from Los Angeles because it views your city as a sanctuary city?
You know, we have such a strength from this country, from our immigrants. And in fact, in Los Angeles, about 63% of our new businesses are started by immigrants. The funding that the president has threatened to take away is funding that we use to combat gangs in Los Angeles. So ironically, a president who's saying we want to protect you is going to take away those funds that we use to protect our citizens. We do what works. And I listen to my police chiefs and police professionals who say time and time again, what works is to have police do police work and have your immigration officials do immigration work. And don't mix those two things together. We just took down MS-13, a gang that the president has talked about, in a big 2-year-long operation. We did that because we have trust from our immigrant communities who know when they see a Los Angeles police officer, they're not going to turn them in or ask them for immigration papers. They're going to ask them, who's causing trouble in this neighborhood and how can we work together to get the bad guys out?
The LA LA Justice Fund. This is an issue where $10 million, I think, going towards helping undocumented immigrants fight against deportation. And these are taxpayer dollars. You already have the New Hampshire Republican Party kind of firing at you on this one. Why is it appropriate to use public money for that end?
Sure. Well, we only have $1 million that's coming in from the city, about $1 million from the county. The rest is private money. But all of us know that there are many folks that are getting swept up in immigration policies that aren't making us safer. We want to find the bad sharks that are swimming in the ocean. But if your policy is to put a net in and to get whatever fish you get, we have 2 million people who are undocumented in just the Southern California area. And we want the bad ones who are committing crimes out of our city, in jail, and out of the country. But to just throw a net out there means the sharks keep on swimming out there. So we wanted to make sure that those folks who are the grandparents, families who are going to be split up, entrepreneurs who have not committed any crime, that those are people who are not going to be swept up in this. And it shows that you're 7 times more likely to successfully adjudicate your case if you have representation. So it's a part of our society that people deserve legal representation. So we're putting $1 million in, but most of it is private money.
Now, the ACLU, shifting on this immigration issue, has said that the presidential pardon of Sheriff Joe Arpaio in Arizona is, quote, a presidential endorsement of racism. The response to Charlottesville raised a lot of eyebrows. Do you think there is a racial animus behind any of these policies coming out of the White House?
Well, I would hope we'd get back to what's really important, which is good jobs and making sure that we actually do put America first in the way that would go for every person, whether Latino, African American, white, no matter what. It's ironic, my great-grandfather was an immigrant to this country from Mexico. His corner store was actually where Joseph Arpaio was the sheriff for many, many years in the midst of Phoenix. And I was campaigning to replace him. We successfully did that because this is somebody who wasn't just going after people because they looked the wrong way, based on how they looked, let's see your papers, but who also ignored what a judge said. And I was worried to see that the president seemed to ignore the rule of law, saying, don't worry, forget about the issue on immigration for a second. When a judge says you are breaking our Constitution, we should listen to what a judge says, and he was found guilty of ignoring that. If we don't pay attention to our judiciary, it's one of the fundamental pillars of our society. So I don't care where your politics are on the immigration issue. It seemed like he was guilty, and that pardon seemed to be out of line.
Do you feel like the rest of the country comprehends the immigration issue the same way that an Arizona or a Southern California does? Because you guys live it, but the rest of the country helps decide the policy too.
Well, sure. I was just in Boston with my good friend Mayor Marty Walsh. He said about 70% of their new businesses in Boston are started by immigrants. It's the tradition of Irish and Italians. For me, as somebody who's both Jewish and Latino, we had folks who came in. Both my grandparents were small business owners. My grandfather was a barber. My other grandfather was a tailor. I mean, this is what's made America strong. We are seeing, even in Central California right now, not enough workers coming to pick the fruit, to pick the vegetables that we need. Prices going up. So we need to have sensible immigration reform. Even the president himself said this last week when he said we need a comprehensive immigration reform. And I agree with him. He should do what Ronald Reagan did, what Republicans and Democrats did in the 80s, and figure out a pathway to make people come out of the shadows instead of pushing them under the table.
Speaking of presidents, you've been doing a lot of notable travel lately. Is there any consideration for you here about maybe thinking about running for president?
No, I'm running a city right now, and I love local government because we're showing we can get things done when Washington is absolutely broken. Whether it's here in the Granite State or whether it's in California, we know that we have to tackle infrastructure, education. Look at America. I run the largest port in the United States of America. There's jobs in New Hampshire that are dependent on the goods that come through the port of Los Angeles. And we don't have the luxury of being able to fight out ideological battles and get nothing done. That's what Washington's doing. So my travels, whether it's in Wisconsin, whether it's here, whether it's in other parts of the country, are to knit together, letting people know mayors are actually accomplishing things on the environment, on jobs, on that middle class dream that seems to be lost. Washington has lost its eye on the ball. They're not focused on the things that matter to you and me, to families that are out there. And I think that's an important narrative right now because Americans are looking for hope. You can listen to MSNBC, you can listen to Fox, you can get depressed, you can stay in a corner, or you can stand up, get engaged with things like we did, to raise the minimum wage, to reduce our business tax, to get out there and make community college free, to pass initiatives in infrastructure. In Los Angeles, we passed a $120 billion infrastructure package. It's the largest in the country's history. And Republicans voted for that, Democrats voted for that. It shows common purpose, and really that's more motivating to me than any future. It's the present and that reclaiming it.
You've got these Twitter accounts that are out there now, NH4 Garcetti, a lot of other locations. conversations. Is this organic?
I have no idea. Right now, I really am focused on running the city of Los Angeles, but I also am interested in seeing what's happening around the country. I think there are great things we can learn in places like New Hampshire and vice versa. We faced an opioid crisis years before it came here, and I want to share that wisdom with folks here on the ground struggling with that issue and their families. We've dealt with some of the poverty that we now see in suburbs in America, in the urban areas like Los Angeles first, and we're overcoming that. So I think we have a lot to learn, but Americans have stopped learning from each other. They've stopped listening to one another, and that's what's very important for us to do right now, and to be in those local communities where the job gets done. And to me, that's really where the American dream lives, not down in our nation's capital.
If not specifically you, what kind of leaders should Democrats be looking for as they head toward 2020? It looks like there's going to be a wide spectrum of people offering ideas, but who do you think would be best suited? What kind of leader is best suited to do that?
We need to reconnect with people. For instance, I happen to be a Democrat, but we're not obsessed with a Democratic agenda. We need to be obsessed with an American agenda. We need to focus and listen to people. You know, I love being a mayor because whether it's at the diner or at the supermarket, people come up to me every day. I knock on doors between campaigns, and I love that surprised look on a constituent's face saying, wait a second, you're an elected official, you're a politician, and you're asking me what I want, what I need? We got to get back to doing that. I'm looking for leaders who listen, not to themselves and not to their own Twitter feed, but who actually listen to the American people and their needs right now.
And we know that you're traveling a lot. Do you think we'll see you back here in New Hampshire at all?
I'd love to come back. It's actually my second trip this summer. I was in Portsmouth earlier with my family in June. Love the Granite State. Love to come for a longer stay, but we'll see what the future holds.
All right. Mayor Garcetti, it was nice to get to know you a little bit better.
Great to know you too.
Thanks for being here.